Hi everybody, Bill 1911 here. Today we're going to talk about building a target to throw edged weapons at. So what we're going to do today is first we're going to go over the materials that you'll need to produce this build. Right down below me here, you're going to need an electric drill with a 1/2-inch paddle bit. A paddle bit is a flat bit that bores through wood very quickly. You're going to need some gloves because we always want to put safety first. You're going to need eye protection. I'm wearing glasses, so I'm pretty well covered. But if you don't wear glasses, make sure that you get appropriate eye protection. It is important. You only get one set of eyes in this world. You don't get a second. We're going to need a marking pencil. We're going to need wood glue. We're going to need 2 8-inch long carriage bolts, 3/8 of an inch in diameter, 2 3/8 hex nuts, and 4 fender washers. Make sure you get fender washers. They're large and flat. Otherwise you're going to get something that has a very small hole in it and a very small shoulder. And since our hole is going to be 1/2 inch and our bolts are 3/8, you're going to want the extra shoulder on these washers to keep it from pulling through. We're going to need 2 3-inch lag bolts. We'll explain the use of these as we go further. We're also going to need 2 pipe clamps because we're going to be taking a whole bunch of pieces of 2x4 and gluing them together, supported by screws on the end. Now we don't want screws in the middle because if we hit them with the edge of the tomahawk, we're going to take a nick out of our blade, and we don't want that. So let's move on to what we have for wood. Part of the wood I've already pre-cut this morning into 2-foot lengths, as you can see. So when we put all these 2-foot lengths together, we're going to have a target that's 2 feet tall and 2 feet wide. I have one more board to cut into 4 pieces. We have one 10-foot piece of lumber here that we're going to cut in half, and that's going to be 2 arms that the target will set on top of. In total, we're going to need 7 2x4s that are 96 inches in length. Make sure you measure them. When you go to Home Depot, sometimes they tell you it's an 8-foot board, but it's only 92 inches long. So make sure you verify that they are a full 96 inches. Otherwise, you can't cut them into your 4 2-foot long pieces. So with that, let's cut some wood. Okay, we're back. Right now we have a 96-inch piece of lumber in front of us. It's 2x4. Make sure, once again, that you are wearing your safety equipment. My eye protection is on and I am wearing my gloves. Sometimes it gets a little bit cumbersome, but it's worth keeping all your fingers. We're going to take a measurement of this piece of wood, first verifying that we are a full 96 inches in length. After that, we're going to start at the beginning, and every 2 feet, every 24 inches, we are going to put a mark on this board. Another one at 48 or 4 feet, and another one at 6 feet or 72 inches. That's going to give us 4 24-inch long pieces of 2x4. Be careful when you roll up your tape measure. A lot of people tend to just pull it up and let it smack like that. The problem is, over time, that's going to beat out these rivets on the end of your tape measure, and you'll start getting longer on your first inch. So try not to just let it go. Guide it all the way in. Alright, we ready to cut? One thing I didn't say, we want to support the end of the lumber so it doesn't drop to the ground and smash the bottom of the saw motor up. So that's what we're going to do. Now this other board I'm going to be holding down well away from the blade. Make sure that you're way away from that blade because it can tear you up. always wait till the saw blade stops turning before you pull it back up. I don't know if you heard a siren a moment ago, the last cut I made, but we'd like to take this opportunity to thank our first responders for all that they do for us. So whenever you hear one of those sirens, be grateful that it's there, because they're going to save somebody's life. All right, we're going to make our second cut. What I want to show you is when we bring our saw down, if you're using a chop saw, and we put the blade all the way down to the wood, we can see where it's going to hit next to our mark, and we can adjust the board to the point where we want to cut, just like that. All right, we're going to cut now. Remember, keep your fingers well away from that blade. As you can see, we've cut 4 of our 96-inch boards into 2-foot lengths. This is going to be our target face. This is what we're actually going to throw our edged weapons at and hit this. We're also going to need a stand to put it on. That's what these last 3 96-inch boards are for. These are the legs for the tripod. Now I've taken the liberty of drilling the connecting hole through these 3 legs. The one thing I didn't tell you about is that 2 of the legs are going to be about 4 to 5 inches shorter than the back leg. The 2 front legs, in other words, are going to be about 4 to 5 inches shorter. The reason why we're doing that is that will allow us to make our target, instead of leaning way back, if the tripod is in equal lengths, this is going to allow us to have the front legs a little straighter. And what that does is it prevents anything that we're throwing at the target from hitting a target with a lot of angle on it and possibly bouncing over. We don't want that. So we want the target as vertical as we can possibly get it. We also don't want it to fall over on its face every time we throw at it. So we need a little bit of lean. Now the way I calculated that lean was I took my boards and I made a guess. I made an estimate on how much lean I wanted on the front legs. And I took one of the boards and I put it across level in distance to the gate. It doesn't have to be exact, but you can get a rough estimate about how you are like this. And that's where we want to be. About 67 inches out is what it came out to be. Your measurement will probably be a little different. From there, we set up the angle that we wanted so that it would reach all the way down to that board. And then we cut off about 5 inches on the top, and that gives us our ultimate angle. Our front legs are going to be shorter than the back legs. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and put the bolt through this and show you how it's going to stand up. Okay, when you assemble the 3 legs to the tripod, make certain that you put the longest of the 3 legs in the center. That is going to be the back leg. As you can see, it's about 4 or 5 inches longer than the 2 front legs. From there, we're going to put our bolt through all 3 pieces of wood. We're going to put the washer on and put the nut on. On this side, we had already placed the first washer on the bolt so that it doesn't pull through the hole. Now we want to leave slack so that we can separate, so that we can splay the front legs out. If we don't have that slack, we're going to have a problem. So from here, we can adjust up the slack we want to take out simply by splaying it out on the gate, then bringing that up like that. From there, that's how it's going to stand. That's our tripod. So, what we're going to end up trying to do is place the target so that it is just at our personal shoulder level. So if you're taller than I am, your target should be a little higher. But I'm only 5'8", so we'll deal with it like that. It's about shoulder height. So where should the bottom of the target be? Well, the target is 2 feet tall, so it's going to be approximately 12 inches below where my shoulder hits this front board. If you look at your arm bone, mine's about 12 inches long from shoulder to elbow, and yours should be fairly close. So we're going to put it right about where our elbow is where the bottom of the target's going to be. So at that point, we're going to want to put a mark across the board. The board is going to be then attached with that second bolt at that elbow height on the back leg. We're going to go through with one board here and one board here toward the inside of the 2 front legs. You know, it's a funny thing. There are 3 gun safety rules that we use with firearms. First, always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. A safe direction is defined as any direction where no one will be hit by the bullet if it should unintentionally discharge. The second rule is always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. The third rule is always keep the gun unloaded until you're ready to use it. Use is defined as when you have 100% control of the gun. Interestingly enough, it's such a habit for me that rule number 2, always keep your finger off the trigger, I even do it with electric drills. It's just become such a habit, which is a good thing. You should try to develop the same habit yourself. As you can see, I've already placed a mark on my board, but I wanted to show you how I took the measurement for that. I simply bent my arm, placed my elbow against the wood, put my pencil where my elbow is, and ran it back and forth a couple of times. That's how we've marked the height for the top of the board that's going to go forward. Okay, we still have to drill the holes in the back part of these 2. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm just going to grab the thing and drill it. Before we drill the holes in these 2 support members, we're going to have to figure out where to drill them. So what we're going to do is, if you remember, we put marks at the height of my elbow on the outsides of these 2 boards. This is where we're going to place the bottom of this board. Then we're going to take our pencil and we're going to mark in the middle on the other side exactly where we're going to drill our hole. These are the 2 lag bolts that we're going to use on the forward attachment points for our support arms. We're going to want to drill a hole that's a little bit bigger around than the shaft of this screw. That gives it a little bit of wiggle room. The reason why we're using a lag bolt on this sideboard is because we want to have the ability to move this board up and down a little bit as we see fit to better support our target. And with a lag bolt, it just goes through and screws into that board and holds it in place. And if we don't like it there, we back it out and move it. We brought the bottom of this sideboard up level with the mark that we have on the outside of this leg. And now we're getting ready to screw our lag bolt into this leg to connect the 2 together. Hardest part's getting it started. At all of the connection points where we put our stand together, we're going to want a little bit of slack in the bolts so that things can work as we move the target around. That way we don't bend everything and break everything. There's a little bit of gap there on each one of these bolts. as you just saw, we put a set of pencil marks down the edges of each of our boards. This is going to give us a guide on where to put our screws when we put the pieces of wood together. Now, we're going to put glue in between these pieces, but we're also going to put screws in them to pull them together. All right? We can't put any screws in the center of the wood because that's where our axes are going to hit. So all of our screws have to be placed along the edges. So each time we add a board, we're going to alternate the position where we're putting the screw in, just like that. And we're going to keep running down on each side until we've attached all the boards. We're going to do that on both sides. It isn't going to take a lot of glue to get this done, so we can just take one run right down the middle of the board, like that. Don't worry if you're a little sloppy, it won't make any difference at all in the long run. Put it on top and wiggle it around a little bit like that. That's going to spread your glue out between your two pieces of wood. Now we're going to take our drill, put our screwdriver bit in it, which I forgot to do earlier. Wrong way. And we're going to put our first screw in it. Alright, it's important to keep track of where you're putting your screws, because when you add the next layer, you don't want the screw you're putting in now to run into the back of the screw you had just put in. You need to alternate each time on one of these lines when you add a piece of wood. You ready? This is our target and our target stand. Now, since we put this together with screws at each of these joints, it isn't strictly necessary to use these table clamps, but we put them on there for a little bit of additional support on each of the glue joints so it pulls together and stays glued. And this is our target. One thing that's important that we need to say about this target is always take this to where you have soft ground around it. There is a reason why. Sometimes, if you throw your edged weapon wrong, it's possible to hit the target and bounce straight back at you. If it's on hard ground, it can bounce back towards you along the hard ground. The soft ground will tend to catch the edged weapon and hold it. One more thing we wanted to tell you about. This target simply sets on top of your target stand. It's not attached to the stand. We do that for a reason. It allows it to bounce a little bit each time it's hit and doesn't put shock waves into the handles of your axes and cause damage. When you're done using your target, it can seem like it would be a little bit awkward to deal with it like this, but it's really not that bad. Let me show you how this works. We simply take the nut off of this back bolt, take the outside washer off, and pull it apart. These arms will swing down into position like that. Put your nut and your washer back on this bolt so you don't lose them. And then all you got to do from here is just simply fold it up, just like this. And pull it away. Hi, Bill 1911 here. This is what our finished target looked like after we took the table clamps off. Everything's glued and screwed together. These are the lines, if you recall, that we put in when we put the screws in to screw this together. Our first screw came in from the outside so that all the screws in this target face in toward the middle. That way you don't stick you stick yourself on the side when you're touching the target. You don't get stabbed by the screw sticking out. So this is what she looks like without the table clamps. If you liked this video, if you found it helpful and informative, please don't forget to hit the like button. And don't forget to subscribe below. And please don't forget to come and visit us at askbill1911.com.